It's impossible to pick up any news magazine or newspaper and read a story about Burt Reynolds without its being preceded by superstar Burt Reynolds.
Is that right?
Yes, that's absolutely true, Burt. What does that term superstar imply to you?
John Wayne is a superstar. I certainly don't think I am. But it's terrific that somebody is... I've lived my... I once spent a whole evening killing myself trying to live up to a typographical error, though.
I don't
know what that... I don't know how to... of course, a 3 does look out like an 8. I don't know what that means, superstar, other than the fact that I guess some of my films are making money now, and I don't think it has anything to do with longevity, which I wish it did. I think that longevity is a big test. I think James Stewart, John Wayne, and Henry Fonda, that's superstar. I mean, I have yet to prove it.
We're in Chicago doing these interviews, and I've listened to a few other interviews, and you keep referring to the fact that you'd like to do comedy. Now, those of us who have seen you do The Tonight Show see a light side of Burt Reynolds. What kind of comedy do you want to do? You want to be a stand-up comedian?
No. Good comedy. I mean, good in the sense that it's... it happened one night. That film that Cable did was terrific comedy in the film, and I'd like to do an act in Vegas, just to see if I could.
Can you sing?
No, but I'll try anything twice, because you might have had a headache the first time. You know, you shouldn't judge it that way. I'm going to try to. I think I'm going to try to do an album. Bobby Goldsboro wants me to do an album.
You're kidding. You
No.
really are. What
Sure.
What are you gonna sing?
Don't have the slightest idea. He's going to write some special material, and I think I'm going to give it a shot. And knowing Bobby, it'll be commercial, and I think it'll be good stuff. It won't be anything I'll be ashamed of, I hope.
You're an extremely likable man. You're an extremely cooperative man, and yet there has been the indication today that you really don't want to talk about personal things. And I heard you say on one interview that simply isn't anybody's business. You know, that your private life is your own. Is it possible for a superstar, and I'll still call you that even though you say you don't believe it, to really avoid that sort of thing? Can you separate your personal life from your public life?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, when you don't answer questions that people ask you, they write them anyway, the answers, I mean, and they make them up. And there's only some areas that I'm kind of shy about, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that don't think I'm shy about anything, but I mean, my family, I like to protect them. I think that it's very difficult for my sister, my brother who's a school teacher, my sister who's a housewife, and my mother and father to handle somebody from Time magazine or Newsweek, or worse than that, the National Enquirer. And they pick up the phone, and they're on the phone, and or somebody pokes a camera at them, and they have to handle that. And I don't really think they should have to. And along those same lines, my relationship with a lady or ladies or whatever has been so kind of, I think, kind of bantered about and discussed, and on the cover of every movie magazine, etc., you know, they should be put in the bottom of every birdcage. I just don't think that. I think that the relationship that I have with a lady is much more special than that, and deserves more than that kind of bantering about. I mean, it's one thing to sit down and do kind of flip answers about your career and about films, etc. But when you talk about, it's not just a lady, but if you talk about a relationship that you have with a man that you like very much and he's very special to you, it's difficult to do it. It's difficult for me to talk about a guy that I care a great deal about without sounding like an idiot or very corny or whatever.
What about that, Burt? I'm sure most people would agree in our audience that you have been labeled, if you will, the super masculine image in our country. we're hung up on super masculinity. Super masculine men go around punching other men in the nose when they say
Do they?
something they don't like, and super masculine men don't cry, and they don't embrace one another, and they don't
God, I
say,
do
"I
all those
love
things.
that man." That's what I wanted to ask you about. You know, are we too hung up on all of that? That labeling, that image, what somebody must be in comparison to what his emotions tell him he really is?
Mm-hmm. Yes, we are. And
That was the quickest answer I ever got for a
I'm,
long question.
well, I don't know how to answer that without sounding like, Robert Benchley. I mean, it's difficult to assess what you are in terms of what other people think is masculine. I mean, I certainly don't really care what other people think is masculine. I mean, obviously, I do a lot of things that most people would think are rather chancy. I mean, if you're an actor, a movie actor, and you suddenly decide to do television specials, I mean, you're supposed to go somewhere and live on a hill and hide and not do television because that interferes with your movies, etc. I mean, I'm unfortunately a little bit too gregarious for that, and I like people too much.
You know, a short time ago, we had the chance to do an interview with a man that I developed a great deal of respect for. His name was Jerry Schatzberg, who directed the motion picture Scarecrow. And he talked about something you just said, the actor who finds himself the superstar, so, bombarded by people wherever he goes that he's almost forced into seclusion, which makes him so much less a person.
Yeah, I know Al Pacino won't do interviews because he's worried about how they'll come out, and unfortunately the only way to learn how to act is to act, and one of the best ways to learn how to handle interviews is to do a lot of them. You do get gun shy, I must say, after a while. I mean, I've had people burn me, especially this year, but it comes with the territory, I mean, if you can't stand the heat, don't go in the kitchen, as Harry said, and he was right. I mean, once you get into a certain area where Redford and McQueen are looking over their shoulder at you, and that's what some people are saying. And when they start saying that about me, then all the people that love Redford and McQueen start hating me. And,
I don't hate
and
you,
there's
and
a
I
lot of
dig
people
both
that
of
like
them.
Redford and McQueen.
I dig both of them.
And there's a lot of other people that suddenly they think that because of a woman's magazine that I was suddenly emerged from under a rock. They don't know about the 15 years before that, etc. And I happen to believe, I mean, obviously I believe it, otherwise I wouldn't be an actor. I mean, I'm convinced that it would have happened regardless of that. I mean, it was happening anyway, and if there was a place that one could go and take your clothes off and get to be a movie star, then there would be a line from here to Africa. And I think that the shock of a lot of actors who are doing that now, which I think is rather stupid on their part, because you can only do that once, and that's the first time it's ever been done. And then the novelty wears off. It's kind of sad because nothing's really going to happen to them.
You have, in your earlier career, and in at least one of your television series, played a half-breed, an Indian. You are part Indian. Your father's a Cherokee Indian. As a result, does that force upon you causes that you may not want to be involved in, or are you involved in causes? Are you a cause worker?
Yeah, I'm very involved in the cause of the American Indian, but I have been for as long as I can remember. But unfortunately now it is the cause celeb, and which of course it'll be something else a few years from now, and I can get back to doing what I did before everybody thinks that I'm doing it because of that. I do what I do very quietly, and the Indians didn't ask me to speak for them, so I refuse to do it now or on a television show, because if you know anything about the American Indians, you realize that you're talking about 173 different languages, and it's not. I wouldn't presume to tell a black man what it's like to be black, the pain of being black in certain situations, nor would I tell a woman what it's like to be pregnant. And I'm not going to talk about the trouble of being an Indian, because I don't know that. I wasn't born on a reservation, nor did I have prejudice against me.
Well, not having been an Indian, you play in your newest motion picture effort The Man Who Loved Cat Dancing, a man who was in love with an Indian named Cat Dancing. It's a fine motion picture, and it's been such a delight to meet the real Burt Reynolds. And I got to do something that you'll hate because it's a womanly thing to do.
Maybe
But I've
not.
been dying to touch that chest ever since I saw that picture.
Boy, what a line, but I'm not going to touch that line, folks. I mean, you think I'm going to say what you, but I'm not going to say what you think I'm going to say.
Burt
'Cause
Reynolds,
it's an
you're a very
afternoon
special
show.
human being.
You
Thank
are,
you
too.
very much.
Well, you're gorgeous.
Thank you.
And you smell good. You watching, Bill?
You stay with us. We'll be back after this message.